Hello, my name is Cheryl Carr, and today I am going to talk to you about type 1 diabetes and a little bit of when my son Landon was diagnosed and kind of how that's impacted our lives and how we manage it, and then just a little bit of education around what it takes to live with type 1 diabetes or to have a son who lives with type 1 diabetes. So my first question that I want to answer and talk about is how much of a role does Landon's diabetes play in my life? And that's a really, important question. When I first read the question and was thinking about how to answer it, I always think about how it impacts Landon's life and don't try not to think a lot about how it impacts mine or his dad or his brother's life. And it really does impact our lives. We had to quickly get ourselves educated on how to take care of Landon. So when he was diagnosed, we were in the hospital for 2, 3 nights, and we had to quickly learn how to take care of our son now. So type 1 diabetes is a tough disease. It can kill you in hours. So if we don't take care of him correctly, he can die. So it was a very scary process for us to learn and to make sure that we were doing it right. And when they train you in the hospital, they just kind of throw you in there. So the stress level in our life really went up drastically. And, just trying to manage and be Landon's pancreas for him. So with type 1 diabetes, basically your pancreas no longer works. So your autoimmune system has attacked it and it doesn't work anymore. So you have to give yourself insulin so your blood doesn't poison your body. And so we had to learn how to draw up insulin. We had to learn how to give injections. We had to learn how to how to count the carbs and calculate the formula so we knew how much insulin to give him for each of his meals and how many carbs, depends on how many carbs he was eating. And so it was just a whole lot to learn, especially like they also throw in there, like if he gets sick, what do you do? And, just a lot of different variables that you have to know to be able to take your child home and make sure that they continue to live and live a healthy lifestyle. So the stress level, I would say for us, just like went up drastically. We were in denial for a bit that this wasn't, really happening to him, and so that was really tough. So we were sad and we were stressed, and then we were sleep deprived because some of the other things that happen is, in the beginning, Landon did not have some of the technology that helps you manage the disease. They don't start you out with an insulin pump or a Dexcom. So the Dexcom helps you manage his blood sugar levels so you can see what they are constantly. And we didn't have any of that technology when Landon was first diagnosed. So we really had to get up every 2 hours in the middle of the night and go up and poke his finger and check his blood from his finger poke. Now he does have a Dexcom, which is a device that we insert into typically his belly area, and it allows us to know what his blood sugar is constantly. So it's called a continuous glucose monitor, and that allows us to even see it on our phones. So when Landon's not with me, I can still pull up an app on my phone and see it. That's as long as the technology is working and his phone's charged and all that stuff. But it really does help from the sleeping standpoint. I still get up every 2 hours just to look at the number and make sure that he's still in good shape, because nighttime's a scary time. A lot of type 1 diabetic children especially tend to go through growth spurts and those kind of things in the middle of the night, and they can crash. So when their blood sugar drops drastically in the middle of the night, it can cause them to not wake up. So as a parent, we wake up every 2 hours to be sure that that he's at a good level. And if he's not at a good level, then we have to wake him up and force him to eat. and sometimes he's super sleepy and doesn't want to do that, so it can be a fight. Or if he's high, I need to give him insulin. So again, when he was on shots, we had to literally draw up insulin and give him an injection. Now that he's on an insulin pump, I can just push the buttons and it gives him insulin. So the technology has really helped him manage his lifestyle, and also has helped myself and his dad manage our lifestyle a little bit better as well. So that's the first question. The next one is, what changed about your schedule and lifestyle choices? So the schedule I talked to you a little bit about already with as far as we had to get up every 2 hours at night. You still during the day want to check his blood sugar at least before every meal. So breakfast, lunch, snack, dinner, and bedtime, when we were poking him to be able to get a blood sugar. Now that he's on his Dexcom, we only have to calibrate it twice a day. So it's going to tell me what his levels are all day long. But I have to poke his finger twice a day just to make sure the Dexcom's reading accurately. So we call that calibrating it. So he pokes it in the morning and at night to get a blood sugar reading, and we enter it into the Dexcom to make sure it's still working correctly. The Dexcom also has to be changed once a week, and his insulin pump has to be changed every 2 to 3 days. So there's still, the needles and him getting poked and those kind of things, but it's a whole lot less with the technology. My schedule also has to be flexible with work, because a lot of times when he's at school, especially when he was younger, so he got diagnosed before kindergarten, so all of elementary school, he didn't know how to do these things. So we had to, if something was to have happened at school and I needed to change a insulin pump, or if he was extremely high or extremely low, then I would have to go to school. So I have to have a job that would allow me to basically drop everything and run and take care of my son. So daytimes, you never know with school. Nighttime, up every 2 hours to check on him. So from a schedule standpoint, it's pretty rigorous and it's constant. There's no breaks from it. So it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year for the rest of his life. And then from a lifestyle standpoint, as our whole family changed. So we pulled out a lot of food that was initially in the house, and made sure that we went more towards low carb options, and just to be thoughtful of Landon, to not eat certain things in front of him because that just wasn't fair to him. However, we don't completely restrict Landon either. We want him to be a child. We want him to be able to participate in everything and be able to eat the birthday cake or whatever it is, and just we give him insulin to treat him for it. The next question is, do you feel like he can still be a normal kid in spite of diabetes? And I do. So something that I told Landon from the very beginning was that, okay, this stinks. We wish that this wasn't here. We pray and hope and fight for a cure all the time, but this is his life. And we try to stay very positive about it and make sure that he is still involved in anything and everything that he wants to. So if, like, Landon loves baseball, then we play baseball. Landon loves basketball, we play basketball. Landon likes to lift weights and exercise with me and do boxing with me. So we don't limit Landon from anything. He can do anything that any other child can do. It's just a little bit more difficult. And he has to have people that are going to help him along in that process. So understanding coaches, parents that help us along the way, that are on the team, and those kind of things. So we do not limit Landon, and I do not think that it keeps him from being a normal child. He does have stressors that normal children don't have. It makes things more difficult for him, but he battles through it, and he continues to do everything that he wants to do. The next question is, and in what ways do you help Landon maintain healthy blood sugars? And I talked a lot about this already, but it's really important to me to keep him active. So exercise is fantastic. It helps keep his levels, down. Sometimes he can drop too low with exercise, but we manage that with protein basically. And and I always encourage him just to stay active and to eat healthy foods. So to try to, watch what he's eating so it doesn't spike his blood sugar. And I have told Landon from the day that he was diagnosed at 4 years old, and he had no idea what I was talking about. But, I told him then, and I tell him all the time now, that I will now be his pancreas. So his pancreas does not work, but I'll do that job for him. So I want to try to take away as much stress as I can from him, and I'll just put that on myself, and we'll be sure that we manage it that way. And it works for the most part. Landon is still stressed because he just worries about it also. But from the standpoint of getting up in the middle of the night and checking his levels on my phone and reminding him of all of these important things and teaching him how to manage his diabetes on his own. So as he gets older and moves out or has his own life, that he's successful at it. And the last thing that I would ever want him to do is to stress over it so much that he no longer wants to manage it, or he just wants to not care about it. So I feel like at a young age, the more of that I can take on, then he can focus on just being a child and being happy, and I can help him manage that. So lots that go into managing this disease for parents and for Landon himself, and really everyone around him. So his friends, his coaches, his teachers, his brothers, his stepsister, they all help us with this disease, and I don't know what we would do without him. So last thing that I just would like to add is I'd like to just raise a little bit of awareness about type 1 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes is where your autoimmune system has killed your pancreas, so it no longer works. You do not make insulin. Type 2 diabetes is where your pancreas still does work, it just doesn't produce enough insulin to effectively manage what your body's trying to process. So in type 2 diabetes, you can sometimes manage it with pills or diet or exercise, not meaning that you have to be overweight to have type 2 diabetes. That's not what I'm saying. It could be that your body's just not producing enough insulin to manage what it needs to. But there are a whole lot of other ways that you can manage type 2 diabetes. But type 1 diabetes is you basically have a dead organ in your body. And because your body makes no insulin, it is very dangerous to the person with type 1 diabetes, especially if they get sick or if they're not taking their insulin like they're supposed to. They could go downhill very, very quickly. And end up in the hospital or worse. There's a lot of children and adults also with type 1 diabetes that pass away from either not taking care of it correctly, or an accident, or in their sleep their blood sugar has dropped low. So there's many reasons, or illness. Illness is a huge one. They get sick. Their levels are really, really hard to manage. So there's many reasons that can lead to death, and it is one of the leading diseases that does cause death. So I just like to make sure that people that I know are aware of the differences between type 1 and type 2, and how scary the disease can be. So that's all that I have, and thank you all for listening. Bye.